All right, guys, my name is Kevin Cho. A lot of you guys know that a couple of years ago, I ended up selling all my real estate that I bought creatively, and I ended up selling all of my houses on seller finance as a portfolio. And I'm here with Sean today, and I'm actually doing this video because Sean was asking me what, when I do come back into real estate in the next 5 years, what I would focus on. And for me, this is what I would do: is if I wanted to go a real estate portfolio, which a lot of you guys really want. There's only really few ways for you to go about it, and the way I would approach it is I will go find all the sellers that have sold a house on seller finance and ask them if they're willing to do another seller finance deal. And the reason why I like going that route is, and from personal experiences, I remember buying my very first house on seller finance 3 years ago in Mesa, Arizona, and from this guy named Tom. And Tom was retiring. He was 67 and he was looking to retire. And when I bought the house and I went to go see him in person just to kind of let him know who's going to be making the seller finance payments, he was like, he kind of told me his story. He said, you know what, my goal is to retire in the next 3 to 5 years, and I don't want to sell all my houses all for cash because I have to pay capital gains, and I have 21 houses just in this complex alone, and that's when it clicked for me. It clicked for me because I know that, okay, if I find one Tom in my life and I strike a seller finance deal with Tom, just one Tom, I have the shot at buying the entire 21 houses on seller finance with no credit check and not going through the bank. And that was my strategy. And a lot of you guys are only really looking to buy maybe 5, 10 houses, 20 houses. It's like, okay, if that's the number you want, most sellers that sold a house on seller finance, they have on average 17 houses that they are willing to seller finance. So, and you do the math, right? How many more Toms really do you need in your life? You maybe need 3 to 4 or 5, and over the next 3 to 5 years, just 3 to 5 Toms in your life, and you can have potentially at buying 80 to 100 portfolio of houses just in your life. So this is what I would do. What I want to do is I kind of want to show you how I would go about finding these deals, right? So I'm just going to go to Maricopa County just because I'm more I'm comfortable with Maricopa County, just because I mean that was my main market, and I'll also go to Chicago just for Sean because that's where he wants to build his portfolio. So here in PropStream, go to Maricopa County, and these are the filters that I just have. I say all the houses are sold right here. This is what a tag was sold, and then they have and the most amount, like the max ownership is 5 years because I don't want to go after homeowners that sold a house 17 years ago. They might not even be alive, to be honest. I'm sorry. And then, and one more thing is just going to the very bottom of the filter and just include seller carryback. This is the most important thing. So in the Maricopa alone, there's 1,500 houses that were sold on seller finance in the last 5 years. And my assumptions is that most of them are going to be, there's going to be a lot of duplicates because, like I said, one seller sell the house on seller finance, most likely they're going to do a lot more. So I'm just going to look at this one, the Remington Place in Chandler. This house was sold 8 months ago, and I see that this house was sold for $400,000, and this is a public record. And the loan they got is a seller take back, which is seller finance, and they got a $300,000 loan. So what this tells me is that this is a $100,000 down payment seller finance deal from, and the lender's name is Leanne Valencia Family Trust. So what I'll simply do is just find the owner of the family trust and say, hey, looks like you sold a house on Remington Place in Chandler on seller finance. Was wondering if you are looking to have any other seller finance houses that you're looking to sell on seller finance in the next 12 months. And the beauty about this is you don't necessarily have to ask them what they want because 99% of the time they already know what they want, right? They're, on this case, because this was a 25% down payment, they might say, hey, I want a 25% down payment and 6.6% interest rate, 30-year term with a 5, 7, 10-year balloon. That could be that could be very well the case. And there's no negotiation here because you're working with a very sophisticated investor. These investors have accumulated a portfolio over the years. So they already know what they're looking for, and you just and you never have to. It's a very logical decision, and I mean, just to kind of prove to you that there's more, so I'm just gonna cancel. I'm not gonna look at the ones with NA. I think those are kind of in there by mistake. But look at this, 3418 South Central Avenue. This was a house that was for $235,000, and seller take back, and the seller is SMM and KFF Trust. So I'm gonna go to the public record and find SMM and KFF Trust, and this was sold for 235, and the seller finance loan was 145. So I know that this was a $90,000 down payment seller finance, and so that's another one. Let's look at this one in Buckeye, Narrowmore, 21621 West Narrowmore Road in Buckeye. I'm gonna go to this, and this was a sold for 400. This one was a brand new construction, so I don't think this is necessarily a good example. Let's move on to this one. 401 North 36th Drive. I actually used to live on this street, so this is perfect. 295, and then they got a seller finance loan of 240. So this was a $55,000 seller finance, and I'm only and my strategy on this would be, okay. So obviously you don't want to leverage so much. You don't want to like put so much of your money down on the deal if you don't have to. So what I would do is I would just pull the list of all the 1,576 houses and organize them in the order of the lowest down payment product, right? So obviously you saw that some of them were 25% down payment, some of them were only 10%, and I'll call them in the order that was the lowest down payment product. So for example, actually, let me give you an address that that I actually bought. The address is 1310 South Pima Road, and I believe the unit is unit 11. Let me just double check. So yeah, so 1310 South Pima Road, unit 11. My partner and I bought this house 2 years ago, and if you look at this, Tom is the guy that I ended up buying the house from. I bought the house for a total of $235,000 purchase price, and we got a $220,000 down payment, a seller finance loan, which means this house, we actually put $15,000 down. And I remember this loan because this was such a unique deal. It was a condo, and $235,000 was the purchase price. $220,000 was the loan. So like I said, $15,000 down. But this one was a 40-year mortgage with a 10-year balloon. So our payment was only like $1,300. And then we actually ended up getting a private money lender on this deal involved. So, this is Edward. I have $50,000 from him. And so I actually ended up not spending any money to buy this deal. So, and matter of fact, if you guys ever want to get private money lenders for your seller finance deals, go after all the second lien position. Right? This is a prime example, right? So we ended up getting a seller finance for the purchase of the house from Tom, but I ended up raising $50,000 to buy the seller finance deal from Edward. So this is a great example of leveraging other people's money. Leverage the seller finance to buy the house, and leverage the private money lenders to take down the house for the purchase, for the down payment and the renovation. So this is a great example. So I totally understand. So just by doing this, I'm overcoming the objection of, well, I can't go buy a house because I have no credit. But at the same time, like, if you don't have no money, go find lenders in second position and say, hey, Edward, looks like you are second lien position lender on a house on 1310 South Pima Road, unit 11. Are you looking to deploy any of more of your capital in second lien positions? So I just find you a seller finance seller, and I also find you a private money lender. And so the next thing I want to do is I kind of want to do it for Sean, right? Sean is from Chicago, and Sean's like, I want to go buy a seller finance deal for my brother-in-law. So I just said, you know what? Let me take the exact same filter and apply it to Cook County, Illinois. And I don't know anything about Cook County. I've never been there. At least I don't think I have. But I'm just gonna go through there's 246 of these. Obviously, this is a significantly smaller market, but there's 246 of these. So I'm just gonna go at 776 Northwest Highway Park in Ridge in Illinois. I'm just gonna click on this. Let's look at this one. It was sold for $570,000, and they got a loan for 513,000 seller finance. So this means that this was a $57,000 down payment, which is 10%, right? 10% down payment, and they get a loan for $513,000. The second, you guys might be wondering, okay, why are we not going after the first one? Because this was recorded in 2016, and I don't think PropStream has enough that I don't think this is supposed to be wiped out, right? Because it just got bought, so the first lien should have been wiped off. But the house got sold last month, and this you want to look at the most accurate recording date. I'm just gonna go look at, I don't know, this one, 46 Hyde Park Avenue in Bellwood, Illinois. This was bought for $150,000, and they got a $135,000 seller finance loan from Lawrence Liz, or Liz Lawrence. So this was a 10% down payment seller finance product. And my game plan would be, hey, Lawrence, looks like you sold your house on 46 Hyde Park Avenue in Bellwood, Illinois, on seller finance, and looks like you got a temp and you sold it for a 10% down payment seller finance. Would you happen to have any other houses that you would consider a seller financing offer on? And that would be all that I do. And my game plan wouldn't even be, let me go find as many sellers, right? Like, you just need to go find 3 or 4 of these sellers that have big enough portfolio, and you just have to buy their trust, right? Pay them on time, perform on your contract as you should anyway, regardless of who you work with. And as long as you gain the trust of the seller, you have a shot at buying their entire portfolio. So I know that if I reach out to 100 people, which is really, I mean, there's 246 people in this small of a market, right? If I reach out to 100 people, most of these investors are not going to be, most of these people are realistically not going to give you the best deals because they're also investors. But there's going to be that 2 to 3%, that small percentage of the people that will say, yeah, just give me a 5 to 10% down payment, give you a 30-year loan, 15-year balloon. And that's the market, that's the people that you should be going after. And you just need 3 sellers, 3 times for me, 3 times. And you could probably, retire with 25, 30 portfolio, 30 house portfolio in the next 3 years very easily. And the beauty of this is, you don't need to do this in Maricopa County alone. You can do it in Maricopa County, Clark County, Orange County, where I'm from, San Francisco County. I don't even know if that's a county. Just, you can do it in all 50 states, and that's the beauty of it. So that's why I was very confident that I can always go build a real estate portfolio anytime with no money, no credit. I mean, you do want to have decent credit, realistically. But none of this is something that requires you to work at a W-2 job and go through the bank. And like, you can realistically find one seller. The moment you find a seller, in the next 30 days, you could buy your first house. Because that's how these sellers move. These sellers are very logical. They're very numbers oriented. They want to get if they have they already know what they want, and as long as you can fulfill that, that's the best part. And this is only for single family homes. We're not even talking about multifamily. Like in Maricopa County, there's so many seller finance deals that happen in the multifamily space. And when I say multifamily, between 5 to 20 units, 5 to 30 units. And maybe that one deal is all you need, right? So I just wanted to kind of make this video for Sean, just to kind of help him out to see. And what I'm actually doing for Sean right now is I'm actually pulling all the lists for him, and then I'm actually setting up a campaign where I'm pulling the list for him, and then I'm setting up the campaign where messages are going to go out at random times. So like, day 1 message is going to go out. Hey, do you want to sell or finance another house? Day 13, hey, just following up, do you want to sell or finance another house? So I'm going to set it up for Sean where the messages will go out, and then emails will go out, and at the same time, like, direct mail will go out. And it's like, I would be very surprised if he didn't get a deal in the next 60 to 90 days. But yeah, all that to say, crush it, and you're building your portfolio is really not as hard as most people think. So go crush it.
I'm just gonna ask you questions so you can
Yeah, yeah.
answer, right? So when you say that you're gonna provide me a campaign, so the 246 properties here, all it's gonna message and email the 246 properties.
Oh, if they're all 246 individual, right? Out of the 246 houses that are sold on seller finance, I imagine 200 of them are going to be the same seller, right? Because one seller might do two seller finance deals. So that's the idea of it. And I don't know how it's broken up though.
Cool. And then, so a lot of people are doing direct to agent where they're calling agents on the MLS and then basically saying the script is, hey, I'm looking at this house on 123 Main Street. Are they open to seller finance? And they, if most agents say no, they're like, hey, do you have anything else? Why would you not do that strategy versus what you're teaching right now?
So there's a couple ways to go about this. Sometimes a house that gets sold on seller finance doesn't necessarily have an agent involved, right? So when I did a deal with Tom, I did not have any real estate agent involved. So sometimes it's best to go directly to the seller because number one, you get the commission. You don't have to pay commissions. But the beauty is that I remember in Arizona in Phoenix when I was living there, there wasn't one agent named Rosie, and Rosie specifically did worked in the city of Phoenix, and she specialized in multifamily from 5 to 20 to 30 to 40 units, and 90% of them were sold on seller finance. So having that doing that agent outreach and building relationship with people like Rosie, it's such a cheat code because you can just leverage that one relationship, and Rosie will bring you all the deals that as long as you're a credible buyer. So there's multiple ways to go about it. Direct to seller, it's a little bit more tricky because there's more there's you have to do more work than just calling an agent. But if you call an agent, it's so much easier because it just it's it's such an easy data to get. So I would do both if I were you.
So do both direct to agent and this strategy that you just taught.
Yeah.
So if my goal is I want 5 rental properties, what you're saying is essentially find one Tom who has a portfolio and I'm done.
If your goal is to buy 5 properties, number one, your goal is very small, and that's not to call you out. It's just like 5 houses is so easy. Like if I wanted to buy 5 houses, I could probably do that in the next 90 days if I really wanted to, right? Like because realistically, you need to find one half of the Tom, right? Like, so yeah, like you can literally retire with just one person. But if that's your goal, if your goal is just what I want to buy 10 houses and each of those houses bring me $4,000 a month in net cash flow and bring you 4 grand, 4 grand a month, plus my pension whatever is enough, then like yeah, 10 houses can be very attainable. I would honestly say 10 houses I could probably do that in the next 6 months. Most people should be able to do that in 9 months, and if you're very brand new, you should be able to do that in 12 months. But what's gonna happen is you buy 10 houses, you're gonna be like, I want to buy more. That's like literally what's gonna happen for most people that end up doing this strategy. So yeah.
So Kevin, this strategy of trying to find the Tom, you make it sound so easy. Why isn't everyone doing it?
Because most people don't want to do the work. Most people want. It's like a funny story is when I was living in Vegas. It was in August. I go to Walmart, and as I'm walking back, it's like 113 degrees, and I get in the car, and my car seat, like my car is so heated up, and somebody knocks on the window and says, "Hey, do you have $5?" And I'm like, I don't have $5. I'm sorry. And I go about my way, and on my way back home, I'm like, dude, you're working really hard not to work. Like you'd be better off if you just worked at any like just work, if you went to go work at McDonald's, like you'd be in AC and you actually get paid, right? And that sounds not but the point of the story is most people don't do the work. I will guarantee you, and I'll put money on the line. If you reach out to 200 of these sellers and you are horrendous at talking to these sellers, you have no credibility. If you talk to 200 of them and you actually had solid 200 conversation and you actually put in the work, it will be impossible for you not to find that one seller, right? Like, let's just break it down. 200. Let's just say 50% of the people respond. 70% of that 100 people say, I'm not interested. 30 people will be like, yeah, I might be open to an offer. 15% of them will be like, yeah, I might be open to a 10% down payment. I'm looking to sell in the next 30 days. Out of that 15 people, maybe 5 people will be like, yeah, let's work out a deal and I'll give you 5% down, 10% down. And then out of that 5 people, and you just narrow it down even more, it is impossible for you to fail if you just make it up with so much volume, right? So, I mean, that's my honest opinion.
How many houses, using the strategy that you just taught, how many houses did you take down? Have you taken down?
Well, my partner, when I got bought out, my partner, after we bought one from Tom, my partner bought 6 more from Tom in the last 1 year and 11 months. And I think it's because I think she only bought 6 more just because she doesn't want to buy more. She's very comfortable where she's at. And I think if I reach out to Tom right now, he actually might be open to something. He actually might be open to buying more. What time is it? 8 o'clock? What time is it in Arizona right now? Arizona is 9 o'clock. Yeah, 9 o'clock. It's too late. But I'll be happy to give Tom a call and to see if he'd be open to selling anything else.
What other questions do we have?
Let me see. Let me text Tom Hoverson.
That'd be crazy.
Hey Tom, this is Kevin Cho, a buyer on South Pima Road, Unit 11, a couple of years back. Period. Would you happen to have any other houses you consider seller financing in the next 90 days? Question mark. Boom. Let's see if he answers. But actually, we'll do a follow-up video on what his response is if he does respond. But
so, your strategy that you just taught, ideally, who is it for? What avatar?
It's for people that want a predictable way of finding these seller finance sellers to build a very streamlined process of building their portfolio. You do not need to go find 10 houses. You do not need to go qualify for 10 houses and personally be liable for all these 10 mortgages, which, I mean, honestly, you should be liable for all the mortgages, but it's finding one seller and retiring off that one seller. Just putting in the work once up front and then reaping the fruits of your labor years to come. So that will be for anybody. It's like, that's the fastest way to build your portfolio. And personal story, I myself have done over 190 sub-2 deals. 190 sub-2 deals with 190 different sellers. 190 different personalities, 190 different, escrows. It's not something that I would want to do again. What I want to do is I want to just have 3 or 4 people that I just buy the entire portfolio from, and just call it life,
So I do direct to agent in San Diego, okay. And so literally I look at the MLS, find homes, I find out what their loan situation is, and then I call the agent, try to build a relationship with them. I've done that for the past 6 months, talking to 15 to 30 agents a week.
Okay.
Right? And so, but it is so hard to find a seller finance deal. Reason being, number one, the agents gatekeep, right? They're like, oh yeah, my seller's not going to want it. Did they really pitch it to the seller? Probably not. And then 2, if there are a couple times it went to the seller, but the seller was like not familiar, so they weren't comfortable. So what you're saying is this method and strategy that you just taught can help you overcome that challenge, right? Versus what I was trying to do.
I wouldn't say overcome that challenge. I definitely see the validity in that. San Diego is just a tougher market in general versus if you were to go anywhere else out of San Diego, your numbers would be significantly better. But hey, you can go directly to the agent, but you can also go directly to the seller. And at the end of the day, regardless of the market, yes, like San Diego's harder, like I just said. What if you double the amount of people that you're reaching out to in San Diego? Like, let's say you reach out to 200 agents in Maricopa County. but you're like, oh, you know what, San Diego's tougher. Let me just do 400 instead. Like if you do 400, you like it's gonna be the same amount of like you're just doubling the work, but you will still see the results.
Okay, so I'm sold, Kevin. If I'm listening to this, I'm like, man, I need to learn this strategy. What am I getting if I'm working with you? If I'm your client, what am I receiving?
Um, I haven't really thought about it, but if anybody wants me to set up a seller finance campaign for them, which I'm doing for Sean, I'll be happy to set it up for you and set up a text message campaign, email campaign, direct mail campaign, and pull the list for you, and just kind of set up the appointments for you. Because I honestly, it's all numbers at the end of the day. If you reach out to 100, 200, 300 agents, like, or 300 sellers, it will be impossible for you to not get a deal. That is just how it is. Yes, like I'll have a better conversion rate than Sean because I have more experience. But regardless, if Sean triples the amount of work that he's putting in, and I only put in, what I'm currently putting in, Sean will do more deals. So, yeah, I mean, I'll be happy to just set up some campaigns for some of you guys if any of you guys are even interested.